So welcome to this series, Soul-Esteem, Confidence, Capability, and Courage, aligning to the intuitive nature of mystical truth. I want to start with a brief introduction to the series, and part of that's served by talking to you about why I chose to do this series, why I feel it's important now. I think the best way to frame this is to give you a sense of where this information I'm going to teach you and this process I'm going to teach you comes from. I've tracked and mapped things over time about the human psyche, about the nature of truth, the nature of mysticism, the nature of things like soul esteem, things like esteem development at a just ground level, confidence, courage, capability. And I've amassed over time a certain understanding of what fuels these things in people, because it's what I read. A lot of times people come to me because they are struggling in this area of esteem. Even if they're not languaging it, it's what I will see. Esteem, confidence, capability, courage, and just generally the power base and muscles to bring a new level of their own potential into being and fulfill, let's say, an X factor space of their own soul contract. So this series for me is about guiding you to do that. How can I best, through what I have learned, and I always say that, being an intuitive for me is like being a reporter. I'm always really in the space of witnessing phenomena in people and then getting guided to what creates that phenomena, whether that's a nourishing experience for the person and what the other options are if it's not nourishing, if it's not empowering for them in terms of shifting out of a certain phenomena into a new one, a new system of power, a new system of esteem, a new way to engage their co-creative power in their life. So there's a witnessing that's always happening for me when it comes to esteem and the things that are going on in people's systems. And intuitive readings, really, you can't go into an intuitive reading with an agenda or bias, or you won't see what's there. You'll see what's there filtered through a bias or filtered through an agenda. And that will compromise the clarity and also one's capacity to get traction in the new. Because what the filters are from, it's from the old. So what I want to offer you in this series is a way to see yourself intuitively. And I always feel like these sorts of series are always an intuitive reading I'm guiding you to do on yourself. So if I were to say, hey, let's read your esteem system, and then let's read your confidence and your capability and your orientation and relationship with courage. Let's do an intuitive reading on that. What I would tell you right away is, while what fuels capacities here and potential here with these forces in your psyche and in your life, forces like confidence, is in fact the truths you're aligned to. What those truths tell you about yourself, what you believe about yourself out of that. If we're going to go, for example, into confidence, which is about believing in oneself, I believe in myself, I have confidence, then I have to track with you back to go, okay, well, what fuels self-belief in you? What informs that? What creates that? For better or for worse? And then we can have a discussion about, if you want to have courage, well, what supports courage is confidence. You have to have a belief that if you jump, have courage to do something and risk, confidence comes in and says, well, I got you. Well, we can handle whatever comes your way. But, and this is to the point of why I feel this series is so necessary now, there are certain limits to certain truths and how they fuel and support and empower things like confidence in your system. Now, if we looked at this from an evolutionary point of view, I would step you back into psychological models, which is where I began in college, studying psychology, studying behavior, cognition, the human psyche, how we wire in. And I would take you back to level 1 confidence development, for example, and esteem development, which are connected. And I'd say, in psychological theory, esteem and confidence are built by doing, as we say in psychology, esteemable things. So if you want to feel good about yourself, then you do things that make you feel good about yourself or help you feel good about yourself. And that's where we all begin. in some form or other. We begin our confidence, our esteem development at this ground level of the laws of the human psyche that psychology speaks to in part. And this is where we look at, okay, cognitive models of development. How did you develop? So one of the things I'm going to pause you with right now here at this psychological level is a question. How did you develop worth? How do you develop worth now? What on a scale from 1 to 10, let's talk about your confidence. 10 is you got it down, baby. Life ain't even ready for your confidence. 1 is I'm not leaving the house. I do not believe in myself enough to take a step out of the door. Where are you? And just get some kind of read on it. Are you 5? Are you 7? It does it vary day to day. What I need you to do, though, is I need you to sense into this in a way where you're starting to get into the intuitive side of your psyche. And in the intuitive side of your psyche, there's nothing we're going to judge. We're just going to look and witness and perceive. I'm going to recruit you into, activate in you, the technician archetype. So we're going to be truth-telling technicians in this series, which means I'm giving you a compassionate, I'm holding the space for you to see anything and everything about yourself and know that no matter what you see, you're always enough. I'm giving you permission. I want to activate that in you right now. That there's nothing to judge here. There's nothing to get right or wrong. There's just karmic technical things that our systems do and that are empowered by the truths we're aligned to. So join me in this investigation into you. And evaluate first, let's just ping around here for a second, the psychological level of how you've developed these forces: esteem, confidence, capacity, and courage. Let me talk a little bit about these forces. I'm going to go into more depth at a later time. But what is esteem? It's essentially the way that we establish value with ourselves and life. So then that translates into how we, quote unquote, feel about ourselves. But it's really, if you looked at this from a fundamental level, esteem is about the value you have with people and yourself. So when you ask someone, what do I mean to you? And do I have value to you? You're asking them, do you esteem me in some way? And how? When you ask yourself, what's my value for myself? You're asking yourself, hey, what's my esteem? Now, I would say that your esteem operates in a system. There's a whole system that creates value in your life, is there not? Think about that. Feel into that. What is your value system? What is the system that is alive, operational, and creates a sense of your value? I'm telling you, fundamentally, we step in and born into certain systems of esteem. We have a culture that defines a lot of that for us on our physical appearances, on how we relate to aging. And in our culture, women most notably lose value at the beauty level of our esteem in this culture as they age, whereas men, depending on how it goes, gain value sometimes. So this is where we start to kind of look at what's created your value system. And let me say it another way. What truths are you aligned to that create your value system? So, referencing the example I just gave you, let's go to the truths of patriarchy. What are they? They are truths that state this: women were created as an afterthought by God, so Adam wouldn't be alone. Women are in servitude to men. That's their rightful place. I'm speaking truths of patriarchy. These are the truths of patriarchy. Are they mystical truths? Are they universal truths? We're going to get there. But they're truths, and they're alive and well right now. So both as men and women and everything in between, when we relate to our value and how we're shaped in an esteem system, this came from an alignment to these truths. And there's so many more you're aligned to. I'm going to pivot to another one that I just referenced a minute ago, and that's a religious truth. That is also patriarchal. Both are true. Both are true. And in, let's say, Christianity and Islam and even Hinduism, there are established patriarchal pillars here of truth. In all of these are all patriarchal religions. And in each of them, what they have in common is that we're kind of effed up from birth. We're not enough to God. We're not enough. In Christianity, we call it original sin. And even in Buddhism, they call it, you're on the wheel of suffering, called samsara. So you got many lifetimes to burn off karma before you're good enough to be enlightened. Same frickin' idea. Same fractured truth. Hinduism's very much, they're having protests now in India because they finally allowed women per law into temples. They're rioting. The men are rioting about this right now. Everything, and these are so massive. What I'm teaching you right now is so life-changing and massive. Because the truths you're aligned to, most notably unconsciously, are damn well informing how you feel about yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you esteem yourself, and then inform the kind of confidence you have, the kind of capability you feel you have, and certainly the courageousness you bring to life and the risks you're willing to take or not. So I want you to, once again, my dear truth technician, come into this teaching with an openness to see, a willingness to see, even if it's triggering, even if it's uncomfortable, to live potential in the world and pull that off. You got to have a certain esteem activated in you, a certain confidence, a certain capability, let's just say capacity, and a certain courage. Because what those all have in common is they are the leads, the guides into the unknown. And what's in the unknown? Your potential. Your potential is not what you know. You haven't lived it yet. You don't know it. Surely you can look back in your life and go, wow, I never knew or thought that I would be fill in the blank. Living in this awesome town, on this particular career path, doing this creative journey around the world, whatever, fill in the blank. I never thought I'd do that. But then you align to new truths. They activate new esteem in your system. They activate new power. They activate new confidence, new capability, new courage. And before you know it, you're in the unknown. Yeah, that's exactly right. You never thought you would or could fill in the blank. And that, my friends, is destiny. What you fill in the blank there is your destiny. Destiny is not what you know. Your fate's what you know. You've been there, done that. Destiny's, I haven't lived that out yet. I haven't manifested that in my choices, my thoughts, how I've put my life together, how I create my life, where I have power. I haven't done that yet. That's destiny. I also felt this was important because, and why I want to do this series is because I feel like we're ready for a new model. I'm going to go through the models that we have. I mentioned just a minute ago the psychological models of these powers in you. And they all, I think, are part of an evolutionary process. And that said, perhaps all have their place. But we are definitely scheduled and need to move into, at this point, something different, something new, because we are at an axial shift in creation on planet Earth. And when we go through axial moments of shift in culture and in the world and in ourselves, heaven activates. And it's like your guidance team gets off the couch and goes, oh, game on. Okay, here we go. And this is about you getting new coordinates and instruction on the new forces and alignments necessary for your soul contract to unfold in its next flow chart of potential. And I do see it as a flow chart to some degree, because I think as we become more awakened, we become more X-factor-ish. We become capable of creating new things that are outside of our history, outside of what we've inherited through our birth and the fate we were born into. So this isn't about us coming to the planet and deciding, because we're becoming empowered, that we're going to change the rotation of the Earth on its axis, its own processes, its own psychic field and movement and timing. None of us have that power, but we do have power as individuals, and certainly as individuals that come together in a collective dynamic. As we can, let's say it this way, we can't really change maybe the destination, but we sure can say a lot about the quality of the journey. And that's that X factor space of your life and of life. I think that's increasing the more that we are awakened to new truths. And when you align to new truths, it reconfigures your whole system, which is why a lot of times we don't want them. We with our minds say we do, and with our shadow do everything we can to stay away. Because we know sometimes, for example, shifting to a new alignment changes everything. Just imagine what it was like when electricity was discovered. Just imagine what it was like when they did realize that the Earth was in fact round. Just imagine what it was like for everyone when they realized that, no, the Earth is not the center of the solar system. In fact, quite the opposite. And guess what? There's other systems, other star systems. I mean, think about any revolutionary truth that's hit the field of Earth and the human journey, and how it reconfigured absolutely everything. And then take that to your own interior. One of the things we have to discuss as we look at the truths you are currently aligned to is, why don't you want new ones, really? And are you telling yourself the story you do? I really do want new ones, Robert, I really do. But if we read it through, what we discover is, no, you don't. And that doesn't make you wrong. Rather, the next thing is, let's get curious about why you don't. New truths sometimes collapse a marriage. New truths sometimes change even the sex you're going to be with next in a relationship. New truths can shift where you want to live. And let me just come back to soul contracts here. Let me come back to the plan. This agreement your soul got down with before you came here. Did an overview. All of this is about what this journey, this plan that you knew. You knew before you were born, hey, there are X factor spaces here. This is how I can activate that. This is fate I'll never change. In the same way, I'm never changing the way the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. This is just a fact of the creative matrix of Earth School. I'm not changing that. These are the truths I'm scheduled to wake up to, and I'm going to hit this truth when I'm 25. Next riveting, life-altering, rewiring truth will hit me when I'm 29. And then after that, it's 35. There was a plan. And what I'm saying is that at some point, you start to get to what I call a bigger co-creative tipping point in your system, to where there's a lot more fluidity in your journey on a soul contract level. This is where you look at some of the masters that have walked this earth that seem to have been able to manifest vibhuti right out of their hand, or heal an illness like that. I'll touch you and I'll forgive you And I will rewire your system with a mystical truth called forgiveness. And when I'm done, that cancer, that blindness will be gone. We're all moving, I'm getting chills as I say this, toward this space where we are heading toward alignments that create that kind of power for our lives. But those masters were aligned to truth in a certain way. That power went through them. Creation flowed through them in a dynamic that was not obstructed by the truths that would fragment power, abdicate power to other authority. No, it was a direct line of creation right through them. That direct line is what I'm guiding you toward. Now, I'm not promising you're going to manifest things in your hand, keeping it real, but these were phenomena and are phenomena amongst certain, powerful beings on the planet now. And I'm saying each of us will have a potential with power. What's your optimal potential with power? Let's get that on. And to engage that, we've got to know what truths are fueling you, what truths empower you, what truths cohese your reality. Now, I want to roll through a little bit of some of the models already here that we've all, I'm sure, dabbled in. Certainly, I think at the human psychological level, we have in psychological models developed esteem, for example, through the esteemable things idea, which I would say as a psychologist is fundamental and important to build on. That's where we all should begin, really, ideally as human beings, because we're in a human psyche and there's certain laws to this human psyche. So when you're growing up and you're a child, you were taught esteem in a certain way. Now, for now, I don't want to make it right, wrong, good, or bad. I will name that certain ways we are taught or wired with esteem have massive vulnerabilities and are very disempowering, and often in our culture, very much driven by shame. Most of us are wired with shame-based esteem models. What that looks like is if you don't do good things, you're a bad person. So you better get right with doing good things. Or if you do not align to the tribal belief system that we as the tribe have set down for you, we do not give you value in this tribe. You're worthless. You're worthless to us. We'll abandon you. Now, I'm just naming main messages we've all heard. This has already formed a certain esteem system in all of us, everything I just said. I can tell you as a child, knowing from the time I was 5 that I was gay, I was always very aware of the esteem system that I was dealing with when it came to, if you're gay, you are worthless. Not only that, you're worthless to God. You don't matter. There's something wrong with you. Now, psychologically, how do we handle that? Well, we develop ways to survive and adapt and find some position of value, even if that position of value is not in alignment to a greater truth. We're going to go for what's on offer. We're going to go for what the tribe says is best. We're going to go because that's just what you're going to do at 5. The challenge is most of us have imported that same approach into adult life, and now we wonder why we feel stuck, we feel powerless, we don't have confidence, we don't have enough esteem to even see our shadow with love. We get in the shame hamster wheel of that. So I can't look at my shadow because if I do, it means I'm a bad person, and I can't be a bad person because if I'm a bad person, I lose value to my tribe, my family, my religion, my spiritual community. So I forever will spin here, never having enough esteem to see, the pain and dark side of myself with love and unconditional eyes. And at the same time, I'm going to keep revisiting all my old strategies to get value with everybody, even though it is drenched in a false truth that I'm worthless. because I'm gay, because I'm a woman, because I'm 10 pounds overweight. You fill in your blanks. We all have something to fill in there. Psychological models are useful to understand the tracks we've laid down from my point of view. I think there can be some benefit at the same time in starting to acknowledge what are the esteemable things you can do. But I would frame it differently. I would frame it this way. I would say, listen, I want you to think of the things you can do that show to yourself that you have worth. Let's call those esteemable things. So that might look like, you know what I could best do is say no to the vampire that's been draining me for a decade. Is the best, most esteemable act I could do is to leave an abusive, manipulative relationship. Is to leave a certain tribalism of my family or religious traditions behind because I'm tired of hearing that I was born with original sin/shame, that I was messed up from the time I was born. I'm tired of other authorities telling me there's something inherently wrong with me. So the most esteemable act I can take right now is to walk the hell out of that. Into what? I don't know. Does God love us unconditionally? I actually don't know. But I'm willing to go out there and take a risk and see, hey, is this actually true? Is this true? Does God maybe love me unconditionally? Is that true? I don't know. So psychological models, I want to say, on the outset, that's mostly what all of us are in. And if you frame it outside of shame, it's very powerful. So, I'm gonna eat well, I'm gonna lose some weight, I'm gonna exercise, not to be better by shame and finally meet a body image and all that crap, but because it's the best gift I can give to me. And I'm going to offer myself good health as the most esteemable thing I could do. It's a gift to me, period. I don't care about your gods and whatever the crap you're spinning in, but I'm going to take this step. So, for example, my point in this, in part, is to say the models I'm going through aren't right or wrong per se, but they do have technical karmic consequences and limits of power. Power, to me, in part, is about your capacity to stay in self-connection unconditionally, to stay in alignment to your authenticity. And authenticity isn't speaking your truth, which most people just use as a platform to talk about their victim experience, which is a step of healing. But rather, authenticity to me is, you know what's authentic for me right now? I want to tell you to F off. That's the most authentic, genuine response I feel in context to what our dynamics are doing right now in our relationship. That's authentic. What would be inauthentic is for me to, I forgive you when I do so not forgive you yet. We're not there. I'm not there yet. My system's not there yet. True story. Authenticity to me is about the raw, real deal. In as much as it is about an integrity, one's light, a backbone of light in one's system. It's also about, I am in direct relationship with my messiness, my dark feelings. That's also authentic. So, what esteems you? And as I go through these other models, I want you to feel through where you're at in them. So this is psychological. Let's now move to self-help and the coaching arts models of let's say, all these ideas around esteem, confidence, capacity, capability, and courage. So in self-help, this is where we see the Nike slogans, just do it. Or how about L'Oreal? Because you're worth it. You're worth it, girlfriend. Get that mascara. Or, like we oftentimes say to each other, you got this, you got this. And these some of the things are really nice pats on the back and power bumps. And this is the next level I want to introduce, is that the truths you align to have usefulness and limits. Is there usefulness to telling someone, hey, just do it? Maybe, depending on the situation. Is there a limit to it? Yeah, totally. Totally. If someone's psyche is so damaged that does nothing for them. Just do it? Really? There's no power there. Oh, because you're worth it? Really? I'm hearing I'm worth it in context to an ad that tells me I should coat myself over with makeup to be enough. Really? Because I'm worth buying into the lie I'm not enough without makeup. Okay. Thread it out. What's your system really saying, really aligned to? The difference, once again, let's go to makeup. I love this example. Difference between, I really want this high quality makeup because it is a gift to myself and gives me a chance to express the beauty I feel about myself already. That versus, well, I need this to cover up flaws. Where are you coming from in yourself? What's your truth alignment? Is your truth, if I want value, I need to be flawless and cover up flaws? Or is your truth, I'm enough already, I'm flaw-some? Awesome and flawed, both are true. Do you live in either or polarization when it comes to truth? I'm either a good person or a bad person. Or do you live more in the both and levels of what your truths are? I'm starting to get you in the field. I've got to get your psyche in these questions, in mapping yourself and in reading yourself. What coaching stuff do you empower? And what are the consequences of that? Both positive and let's say negative, both connecting and self-disconnecting. Do you hire someone at a gym to do weight training with or as a personal trainer out of your shame? Or is it a gift to yourself? Hey, I want good health. I want to be strong and this person will help me. I need their encouragement. So what I'm after here is you got to start to know, what am I talking about? I'm talking about what your system's aligned to when it comes to the truths alive and well. And I want you to do an investigation. Where do you get your truths from? Who's told them to you? And how do you even know they're true at all? I'm going to give you a little more tips on evaluating that in a minute. But what you'll see in self-help and the coaching arts models of esteem, confidence, etc., is that there's always a formula for success. It's very formulaically based. And it's about focus and goals. It's about these slogans like, don't ever quit. Now, let me just challenge that for a second and I'm riffing around to get you to go, to ventilate your system with questions. So, is there ever a time when maybe you really actually should quit? Could that ever be true? Now, if you're in shame and your truth is a shame-based truth, your truth is, I am inherently effed up from the moment I was born with that original shame. And therefore, that runs a certain creative reality for me and intentionality and agenda in my life and informs my esteem system, my confidence, my courage, my capacity and capability 100%. And therefore, when I hear something like, don't ever quit, what I take in from that is, if I quit, I'm a loser. Winners don't quit. Losers quit. Oh, really? Let me pull out a few readings for you from my archive of the thousands I've done. Because sometimes the most empowered move is to quit when you realize you're on a path not meant for you. You're aligned to truths that don't serve anymore. Yeah, actually, I don't live in a truth reality where there's winners and losers. There's just us doing our best, waking up more and more all the time, and hopefully coming away with more love for ourselves no matter what happens. That's the truth I'm in harmony with. You go on with your bad self and spin in your winners and losers truths. I'm not down with that. The consequences collapse me. And I am not assigned to be in harmony with that truth for my entire lifetime. My soul contract asks of me something more, something different. That may be true for you for the rest of your life. So you see what I'm saying here? Now let's shift this down And let's look at the other side of this too and say that, in the self-help and coaching arts, a lot of times there's this mandate to disassociate from your past. So there's always this, you're not your past clause somewhere in them. And I remember I did a reading on a woman. There's a few times in my career, probably I could count maybe 5 over 20 years, where I had a client that I really couldn't help. They were resistant to the information from the reading. They did not want to look at the truths they were aligned to. And I honor that. I really actually do. Because I know someone's system may not be ready. But I also have to honor that they've hired me to tell them the truth. And this particular client, I began, and I always read from your past forward. So I'm always going into, because I got to know where you're coming from, what's wired you. I got to profile that. I got to understand how your system evolved if I'm going to help you. So in a reading, I will start to talk about your past first. Within 5 minutes of this client and I being on the phone, and I always read people in these deeper readings before I call you, because I want to know, so I can maximize our time on the phone, a profile of what I'm dealing with so I can help you. And the profile read out this way, that her father was an alcoholic and that her mother was a codependent and that she had wired a certain perfectionism to survive that, and lots of shame in her system, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the main veins. And I started to talk about this and my impressions, and she stopped me about 5 minutes in and she said, I just got to stop you. I'm just not relating to anything you're saying. And I know at this stage of the game when I'm right, in terms of I'm accurate. And I know when impressions I'm not quite clear on are. So I know the field, I know my intuitive system well enough in these readings to differentiate them. And I'll ask questions where I'm not clear to get that blank filled in, and usually it's something that's better served by someone talking in a dynamic with me for maybe the therapeutic aspect of the reading. So in any case, she said, I said, so your mother wasn't a codependent, your father wasn't an alcoholic? Oh, no, they were, but that's just my past. And I said, well, you do realize that your past wired you in a certain way. And she's like, well, I'm with this new coaching group, and we're not down with, our past defining us. So I said, okay, well, we're clear. This is what shaped you. I'm going to keep going with the reading. So about 10 minutes later, she flares up again, and she basically doesn't want to go any further. And then I realized, I said, listen, I'm going to refund your money because I can't help you. And I said, I'm going to refund it because you just taught me something very important. I said, here's the thing that I will leave you with. You in this coaching arts and all this stuff and the shame-driven nature of it have disassociated from your past. Disassociation means the past is denied as something that informs you today, as if it never happened. When right now your perfectionist is running this reading, you don't want to hear anything negative about where you've come from, such that now you're scapegoating me. And there's a difference between disassociation and differentiation. Differentiation means I know where I've been, I know how it shaped me, I know how it's informed me, and I will differentiate through aligning to a new truth into something other than where I've been. I bless where I've been. I bless that alcoholic father and codependent mother. I bless the learning of all that. And it doesn't have to, quote unquote, define my future, but it will forever will inform it, forever. In the same way I would look at you in the eyes and say, my past with 2 addict parents, my journey as a gay man, my journey with my own struggles, with my own patterns, and my own heartbreak, my own healing will forever inform my teaching. And I bless that. I'm grateful. I would not be the teacher today without that history. So, truth, were you aligned to it? These things really encourage a disassociation from your past. I think this is a great, these coaching ideas, these coaching models, and that will put your psyche in a jam. And then I'd ask you to go, okay, what archetype in you is managing the disassociation? The denier, the perfectionist? I got rid of my past, as they say. Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I'm looking at the archetype managing it all right now. You can't even hear a new truth offering through this intuitive reading that I'm giving you. And that's okay. I will honor your limits. But let's just leave this with clarity. Let's bridge this now, this part of disassociation from history, into the next level of what's shaped a lot of your truth alignment and thereby shaped your esteem, shaped your confidence, shaped your capacity, capability, and courage. And that bridge to me is into spiritual and religious New Age models of developing these forces in you. Now, I'm going to end on religion, but I do want to say that the first thing a lot of us are taught, certainly in Catholicism, I'll vouch for that, is that it's to have a proper alignment to God, to the ultimate power, right? Let's just frame what God is, and let me be very clear. I'm not speaking about some patriarchal dude with a beard in the sky. I am just simply choosing language that's most familiar and accessible to us. I think we've all grown up with the word God. Now, do I see God as male or female, or some, like I said, dude in the sky? No, not at all. Of course not. So when I say that, I'm not coming from patriarchal filters. I'm just accessing the most familiar touchstone of how we define the divine, which ultimately we can never name. It's everything. It's everything. So let's just establish the mystical kind of definitions here. And that said, what you'll find in all these models, whether that is religious, whether that is New Age, whether that is metaphysical, whether that is spiritual, as we say, you're going to find, I guarantee you, that in these models, you are challenged with God's favor with you. So, for example, in law of attraction philosophies, the favor of the gods or God or the universe or energy or attraction is based on your capacity to be positive, to focus on positive things, lest you attract negative. It's no different than me telling you that, guess what? Do good things or God will punish you. It's the same shit, just in new metaphysical language. Same damn thing. And furthermore, let's flip to my readings. Let's flip to soul contracts. I could give you soul contract after soul contract, most notably anchored by the Bodhisattva archetype, the being that takes on the karma of someone else to teach and help them grow out of this radical mystical love. I could show you where none of that is true at all. Where a child is born into a family system under contract to develop leukemia and die. And not because their vibration or negativity is running amok. Or, for that matter, because they're working off karma from a past lifetime. They're there as a Buddha to the family, to the mother, to the father, that says, listen, I'm going to die. I'm going to come in with cancer. And this is an initiation into a new level of how to love and how to see God. It's your initiation to break free from the shame-driven models you've had and to blow up your hearts through them breaking. So I'm coming in. You've not attracted a thing here. We have a contract for you to blow your heart open. And I'm going to do it. And I can tell you, I've seen reading after reading like this. And many of you are this too. You've taken on things for people that have nothing to do with your vibration, with whether you're positive or not. Nothing. You were just the soul that had the muscle for it. And so you stepped in to do the heavy lifting, so you could teach others to do that too. This is what I mean right here by what it means to align to a different truth. What if you didn't have this on offer and instead opted for the shaming, wrathful law of attraction God? You would never see that child for the Buddha that child is and was. And you would miss the whole opportunity that that child gave you. Religious, spiritual, New Age models are oftentimes one and the same. There's really no difference. It's the shame has found a way to relanguage itself in a different philosophical structure that's broken, perhaps free from Christian containers or Islamic containers, or even some of the more shame-based Buddhist containers. But it's the same God. It's the same myopic, limiting alignment to truth. To a truth that has massive limits. Massive limits. Now, if you were someone that could align to what I just gave you, which was the mystical truth of the Bodhisattva contract, what would that open up in your potential? What would that empower in your confidence? What would that empower in your relationship to your value, to esteem? How would that rewire your esteem system? How would that rewire how you take risks? How you co-create in life, how the graces and forces you bring online as a co-creator, it would change everything. It would change absolutely everything. This is the heart of this series right here. This is it. Because what I'm going to guide you through is a schemata and anatomy of truth. And then we're going to revisit esteem, confidence, courage, capacity. And we're going to look at the intuitive nature of mystical truth. I just gave you an initiation in.